Hello again, it's me, Mel Byron, here in the woods. I hope if you've been at work today, you had a really great, happy, productive day. I know that's not the case for all of us, and that's a bit sad, I know. But I wanted to share a story with you about somebody else who had a terrible time at work. And here he is. It's Mr. Johann Sebastian Bach, the well-known composer. Now, back in the 18th century, Johann Sebastian, he was working for the Duke of Weimar. And he was very, very unhappy because the Duke of Weimar, bizarrely, wasn't a music lover, didn't really appreciate Johann's craft. So, as you might expect, he looked around for another job and found one with the music-loving Prince Leopold of Anhalt-Köthen. And so he went to the Duke and he handed in his notice. Whereupon the non-music-loving Duke was so infuriated that he had him thrown into prison for 4 weeks for handing in his notice. Thank God we live in slightly more enlightened times now, and it might be that some of you are having a bit of a rough time at work and it's January, you know, it's time to think about new starts, and you might be thinking, actually, that's the thing I want to do. I'm not suggesting, hey guys, let's all throw in the towel and go off and find ourselves, because honestly, sometimes if you're unhappy and if you feel unappreciated and that your worth isn't being appreciated, handing in your notice is the only thing to do. So before you do that, what you need to do is sit down and have a think about it. Have a think about yourself. Have a think about why you're unhappy. It might be that your boss is horrible, because that is, I'm afraid, all too common. It might be that your company, your organization's values don't chime with yours. And I've talked about values-led leadership before, and we're all leaders when it comes to values. And if they don't, it's actually quite stressful. It's a lot of emotional labor to try and be happy at work all day in a company whose ethos really isn't your ethos. So that would be a good reason to leave. But you need to really kind of get into your own head and understand that. So write all these things down and really weigh them up and think, well, what is it you do want from a job? I've made the mistake, I'll admit, in the past of staying with a job because I didn't want to feel like, you know, they were hounding me out. Like, yeah, I'm miserable here, but I don't want to give them, or my boss, the satisfaction of leaving, of having made me so unhappy I'll leave. But do you know what? I think that was a really foolish thing to do. And I stayed in that job a lot longer than I should have done, because I didn't want them to get me down. But sometimes a job just isn't giving you what you need. So you need to start thinking about looking for another job, finding another course, whatever it is that would make you happy. And obviously, you know, we've got to live as well. Eventually I did get another job, I'm happy to say, and I did get away from the job whose ethos really wasn't chiming with mine at all. So I was in a much happier position. Thankfully, when I handed my notice in, nobody threatened to throw me in the slammer, although they did make me work ever such a long notice period. At least it felt like that. And it might be when you're doing your jottings and you're looking at weighing everything up, that you might think, well, actually right now isn't the time for me to leave, because sometimes it isn't. And that's not necessarily to do with the job, but it might be because, for example, you have lots of free time. You know, you don't have to do extra hours or whatever, which frees you up to do your creative thing. And maybe that creative thing could become your work in the future. So there are checks and balances. There are things you need to weigh up. And you certainly, whatever happens, need to know your own value and know where you're going to have that value appreciated, just like Johann Sebastian Bach did. Now, I don't think that in 300 years' time, people will be talking about me, but I certainly do think that the path I'm taking now allows me to give the best value to the world, and also to do the things that I really enjoy doing, like making these videos and communicating and trying to make the workplace a better place. If you can't get out now, if that's not the right thing to do, remember what is really important to keep you safe. You have to keep thinking about self-care. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. That means doing all kinds of things that keep you in, I guess, what you might call your happy place. Interestingly, the reason I know the story about Johann Sebastian Bach is because a couple of days ago I put the radio on. I was listening to catch up in my happy place. I was listening to Classic FM, a station I love, and I was listening to a program called Everything You Want to Know About Classical Music with Catherine Bott, and she told this story about Johann Sebastian Bach. So by going into my happy place, just because that's what I wanted at that particular time, something to engage me, something to make me feel relaxed, I actually found some creative inspiration. So, you know, there's a lot to be said for being in your happy place. Guys, don't let work get you down. There are things you can do, but really think about what's the right thing for you right now. Be your own leader. We're all leaders now. I keep saying this. Understand your value, understand what your values are, and you know, if you want to make some decisions about that, yeah, make those decisions, but make sure you've understood all the pros and all the cons. But you know, it's ultimately about you feeling worthwhile and feeling happy. And you know, in the meantime, do whatever you can. Be in your happy place. Listen to Classic FM. Listen to Johann Sebastian Bach if that's your happy place. Guys, I'll be back with you soon with a new video, which will be a lot about self-care. So hang on in there. Have a great time, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.